In the heart of a small, forgotten village in West Africa, where the moon cast eerie shadows on the thatched roofs and the wind whispered secrets through the trees, there was an unsettling mystery. The village, known as Ijoma, had always been a peaceful place, filled with laughter during the day, but at night, something strange happened, something that no one could explain. For many generations, the villagers had lived simple lives. They tended to their crops, gathered by the communal fire to tell folktales, and took comfort in the warmth of each other's company. But the one thing that began to disturb them was the behavior of the village's cats. Every night, just as the last candle was blown out and the village drifted into sleep, the cats of Ijoma would gather. They would sit in circles, their bright eyes glowing in the dark, staring at something invisible to the human eye. Sometimes they would hiss, sometimes they would yowl in a way that sent shivers down the spines of anyone still awake. The strangest part was that they always gathered around the old baobab tree at the edge of the village, a tree that the elders said had been there longer than the village itself. The people of Ijoma grew uneasy. What were the cats saying? What was hidden in the darkness that only their eyes could detect? The beginning of the mystery. The first person to notice the odd behavior was Mama Ebun, an elderly woman who lived alone near the baobab tree. One night, unable to sleep, she watched from her window as the cats assembled beneath the tree. They were silent at first, then suddenly, they began hissing and clawing at the air as if fighting an unseen force. Mama Ebun's heart raced. She had heard tales of spirits, ancient beings that walked among them, but she had never believed them, until now. The next morning, she went straight to the village chief, Chief Obesai, to tell him what she had seen. "Chief, something is not right. The cats, they see something at night, something we cannot see," Mama Ebun said, her voice trembling with fear. Chief Obesai was a wise man, but he was also skeptical. He had ruled the village for many years and had seen countless rumors and superstitions pass like the seasons. "Mama Ebun, perhaps it is just the wind, or maybe the cats are hunting mice." "There is no need to worry," he replied calmly. But Mama Ebun was not convinced, and soon other villagers began reporting similar sightings. The cats, they said, were acting stranger than ever. They would gather every night, staring at something beyond the darkness, their eyes wide and wild, their bodies tense. It wasn't just one or two cats, it was all of them, as though they were part of some strange, unspoken ritual. As the nights passed, the cats became more restless, and so did the villagers. Some began to believe that the spirits of the ancestors were angry, that the village had done something to disturb the balance between the living and the dead. Others whispered about the ancient baobab tree, saying it was cursed, that it was a gateway to another realm. Children were forbidden to go near the tree, and some villagers even moved their homes farther from it. But no matter how far they moved, the cats would still gather, night after night, always under the baobab, always staring, always waiting. It wasn't long before fear gripped the village. The once bustling evening markets became deserted by sundown. People locked their doors and windows, refusing to leave their homes after dark. But even inside, they could hear the eerie howls of the cats, and feel the weight of something watching them from the shadows. One day, a stranger arrived in the village. His name was Adisa, a traveler and storyteller who claimed to have visited many lands and seen many strange things. When he heard about the cats and the baobab tree, his eyes darkened with understanding. "I have heard of such things before," Adisa said as the villagers gathered around him. "In my travels, I have come across villages where animals see what humans cannot. The cats are protectors, they are warning you of something dangerous." The villagers were silent, hanging on his every word. "What do we do?" asked Chief Obesai, who was now beginning to believe that something supernatural was indeed happening. Adisa looked toward the baobab tree, its branches twisting like fingers reaching toward the sky. "There is an old story," he began. "A story of a village much like this one. The people there were visited by a spirit, an evil spirit that hid in the shadows, unseen by human eyes. But the cats could see it, and they tried to warn the people. They gathered every night, just as your cats do now. The villagers exchanged fearful glances. What happened to that village? Mama Ebun asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Adisa's expression was grim. The spirit grew stronger because no one listened to the warnings. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. Determined to avoid the fate of the other village, the villagers of Ijoma decided to heed Adisa's warning. That night, Adisa, Chief Obesai, and a few brave villagers stayed awake, watching the cats closely as they gathered around the baobab tree. At midnight, a strange coldness filled the air, and the cats began to hiss and screech. Adisa stepped forward, chanting words in a language no one understood. Suddenly, the ground beneath the baobab tree began to shake, and a dark, shadowy figure emerged from the base of the tree. The villagers gasped in terror as the figure took shape, a tall, menacing spirit with hollow eyes and a mouth twisted in a cruel smile. It had been lurking there for years, feeding off the village's fear, growing stronger each night. But Adisa was prepared. With a swift motion, he threw a handful of sacred herbs into the air, and the cats, as if understanding his intent, lunged at the spirit. Their glowing eyes seemed to pierce the darkness, and their yowls became a chorus of defiance. The spirit shrieked, writhing as the cats attacked. Slowly, it began to fade, its form dissolving into the night until it was nothing more than a whisper on the wind. When the dawn came, the village was quiet once more. The cats, having fulfilled their duty, returned to their usual selves, lounging in the sun and chasing mice. The baobab tree, once a source of fear, now stood as a symbol of the village's resilience. Adisa left the village the next day, but not before warning them to always pay attention to the animals. They see what we cannot, he said. And sometimes, their eyes are our only protection against the things that lurk in the dark. From that day on, the villagers of Ijoma never ignored the cats again. They knew that the cats had saved them from a fate worse than death, and they would forever be grateful to the creatures who had watched over them, even when they didn't understand the danger. And so, the mystery of what the cats kept seeing at night in the village was solved, but the story of their bravery lived on, passed down through generations, a reminder that sometimes, the eyes of the innocent see the truth that others cannot.